but I think we should get rolling. And Yassine, I'm so glad that you could join us today and give a share your Yassine-ness with us and talk to us about mobile development and what you're doing with Despia.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate that. And yeah, so I started making mobile apps quite a while ago, and I used, those wrapper solutions out there. And like capacitor and all that stuff. And it's not the best thing to use. It's quite glitchy. You won't have that. You have a limited amount of native things you can do with it, but you have to custom build that plugins and capacitor and it's quite not the experience you want it to be. And I never really liked Flutterflow because then I have to rebuild everything and it's limited in terms of design what I can do. And I came from Webflow, so I do like the aspect that I can go fancy with designs and all that stuff. So that's why I built the Despia. I want to have the tools that I already like that give me that design freedom, that give me that flexibility of illustrating my code flexibly, like Toddle, like WeWeb, like Whist, and I want to be able to make great mobile apps with that. That was like the idea. It seemed impossible at the beginning when I started building that a year ago, but after a year later and love failed attempts, it's finally working. And a lot of people that we also have in this Zoom meeting here are using it and they really love it. And it's improving, day by day. So that's kind of like the little introduction how I came into building Despia. Now, what Despia does, it helps you build mobile applications, hybrid mobile applications that are in sync with your web applications. But you can still keep using the existing tool that you use for a web application. You don't have to maintain a separate code base and you don't have to cut back on functionality.
Cool.
So you want me to share my screen real quick, how the editor looks, a little
Yeah,
walkthrough of
man.
that?
Give us
Great.
take us in, man.
Perfect. Yeah, let me share my screen. Let me share my desktop here. Beautiful. Can you see my screen? Oh, okay. So right now I have like a sample tester app. I made one today just for you, Ray. And now let's just allow the app to send push notifications and all that stuff. And as you can see, I have a lot of functionalities that are native. And this is all built inside of a web application. So this is a web application rendered as a mobile application with all the native mobile functionalities. And I can see I'm getting the native device ID, so I can prevent abuse. I can see which device is logged in. Maybe one device logs in under multiple accounts to get around the free trial, and then you can detect that and kind of like flag them in your database. And then I can see, do they allow tracking? So do they allow to cross-track the activities across my app? That's, probably more important for the people in Europe because of GDPR and all that stuff, but we do have that available. So your web app is able to get the native data that is on the device, on the app that the user allowed or didn't allow. And then I can also send local push notifications. So for example, now I have a push notification scheduled, as you can see. And if I scroll down here, I should be able to get that push notification in a few seconds. Here you go. Why are you waiting? Get started today at despia.com. I can click on that and open it in the mobile application. So that's how simple those things go. I can also do biometric verification like Face ID or put my PIN in there and it says biometric authentication was successful, right? This is now all native functionalities that I built in the tool that I already use, such as WeWeb or Toddle or Whist or Webflow or whatever you want to use, or React, right? And then if that would fail, for example, it says face biometric authentication was unsuccessful. So I do have that native process. I can also take a screenshot. Here you go. Ray Demo would like to add to your photos, allow, and now it's saved a screenshot. Or I can open native files. As you can see right here, I'm opening the dummy file and I get that native share dialog for files, such as social share, where I can open social share. And then we have haptic feedback. Now I can't demonstrate haptic feedback in a Zoom meeting, but it's going to vibrate. And then I can save images to my camera roll. Right now I saved an image to my camera roll. Let's look at my camera roll, what image I saved. And here you go, we got Ray. There you go. Let's favorite that. There you go. So now we have Ray saved inside of here. And then I can do in here a native continue dialog, right? Where I can go cancel or an alert, continue, you know. And I can even have the native spinner. Maybe I don't want to work with CSS. You click on here, you have the native device spinner for a few seconds if you want. That's how much native access Despia has. If you're too lazy to build a spinner, just use a native one using SwiftKit. There you go. You have the SwiftKit spinner. That's the real native one for the device. You can trigger that anytime. We can even track geolocation. Here you go. And watch for location movements. So you can build a delivery app like DoorDash or something like that without cutting back on functionalities. Let's allow that. We have in-app purchases. I do have sad news. I prepared for this app something called Ray Coins, but Apple told me that doesn't seem legit and they did reject that in-app purchase. So when I click on here, it's going to say, yeah, that is not an, because it wasn't approved the in-app purchase. They told me that doesn't seem legit selling Ray Coins. And so like, but we don't have in-app purchases here. Now I also have external Apple Pay here, which I need to show on my device because Apple Pay doesn't work on the simulator. So let me now actually stop sharing my screen here too, because Apple takes a 30% cut and they do like, taking a bunch of money. Raycoin. So people always ask, what if I am selling, for example, some sort of physical products or some sort of services like Fiverr in my mobile application? Do I have to pay 30% to Apple? And you don't have to. That's the wonderful thing with Despia. In here, as you can see, I have this buy button here, right? And that is pay with Apple Pay. And this is using Stripe. So if this payment goes through this button, you're not going to pay the 30% commission or the 15% if you're a small business. Of course, considering that you're selling some sort of physical product, such as an e-commerce store or a service, like you have an app like Uber or you're ordering food or something like this. If I click on here, as you can see, I'm getting the native Apple Pay dialog in my mobile application. And, I could pay this now. I think $9 worth risking it. There you go. And it was paid. And then, you get that event on your server. And, this is kind of like how you go around that. And that transaction only has the 3% Stripe transaction fees, not the 30% Apple takes. And that beautifully natively renders that in my mobile application here. And those are just a handful of the features that I prepared for today. But there's so much more that you can do with it. That's just like the speed run of the functionalities that Despia can give you. But I know whenever we show functionalities, it's always interesting. How is that built on the back end? Because now you know the native part. So let's take a quick look in actually how we get here. So in this example, I'm using Toddle for my front end, but that is the same process like if you were to use WeWeb. So let me show you how I do this. So Toddle is a web application builder, competitor to WeWeb, competitor to Wist, right? And this applies for whatever tool you want to use. But for example, here for sending a local push notification, I'm building the native application logic inside of my favorite web app tool. So in here, depending on whatever tool you use, it may be a little bit different. But in here, I have an on-click event, and that's running Despia's SDK. So I can put a title here for my push notification, a message, and I can schedule it in X seconds. And then, I can target the URL or something like this. And then I also have an event when it was scheduled to give some callback. And we have a bunch of native SDKs all here available, as you can see, that you can use with the Despia SDK. Now, you can also do this with JavaScript, and we have that documentation inside of the editor right here, and how that works with JavaScript. But now that I have all those things, for example, like the share, I build that logic here in my web application. And calling this logic in the web application, then once it is rendered as a native Despia mobile app, it's going to trigger the native functionalities and send data back to my web application using context events. For example, when I fetch the device ID, I just have in here an onload event to get the Despia device ID, and on callback, I'm getting the event data and logging the device ID into a variable. That's how I get native access to the native device ID instead of my web application. So I can maintain one code base for my mobile application and for my web application. That makes it pretty easy to manage. And then you can also see actually if this is rendered in the Despia mobile application or if it's rendered in the web application using the user agent. If the user agent includes Despia, then you know this is in the mobile application. If it doesn't include Despia, you know it's rendered in the web application. That makes it also, so you can have conditional logic based on if it's on mobile or on the PWA or web application. Now, now that we have it in Despia, the only thing we need to do is link our project, our remote HTML file, basically, where we get that resources from in the editor, upload an icon, we can configure the splash screen, all that kind of stuff. We can design it here. If we want to add remote push notifications, we just simply connect it with our one signal, just put the API key inside of here. We can say we want biometric authentication or not. I can put my Apple shared secret here. Probably should rotate this after showing it in here. For in-app purchases, I can edit the, offline screen, but we're also working on full offline functionality, but that's still in the works. I can, work with some URL redirects, certain URLs I want to open in Safari, certain things I never want to open in Safari, and certain URLs I always want to open in an in-app tab. That makes it, specifically more important if you work with custom code solutions and you host things on Vercel. And, that is probably more when you need those things. Not necessarily when you need no-code tools, because most of them already proxy some of the things you open. I can then set some of the theme settings here, of the top bar. If I want to portray a landscape mode, if I want to prevent sleep or add pull to refresh, and, if I want app feedback and all those kinds of things. Those are like, the basic baseline app functionalities. And then all of the logic that you build inside of your mobile app, you build that in your favorite web application tool using either our Toddle package or our JavaScript SDKs that work with everything. WeWeb, Whist, Toddle, Bubble, everything. Even though with Bubble, you need to actually install a plugin to run JavaScript in it because you can't like necessarily run JavaScript in it, which is quite funny. But it does also work with Bubble. And you have access now to all those native um, things inside of here. And we also have extensive documentation here. So you can see where I go to my native SDKs and we have documentation about everything available here. For example, sending a WhatsApp message and all of that with code examples. So you're never lost if you do this with a custom code implementation. And then we also have, customer support to help you 24/7. And now that we have that set up in the Despia editor, we want to send it, of course, to the App Store. There are two options. You can either export the code. This will give you the Swift package. You can open that in Xcode. That's how you also get it into the simulator here. Or you can use auto publish. Just put your app ID that you got from the App Store Connect, connect it with your development team. You can have multiple ones if you work for clients. One click publish and you send it to the App Store. That's all you have to do. It'll put it on there as a draft and then you can send it to TestFlight from there. And then from TestFlight, you can publish it to the App Store. And we have the highest approval rates for that kind of technology on the market. So that's kind of like how it works. Are there any questions?
These things are often hardest at the point of integration. So I think
Yes.
there's sort of 2 points of integration. Like one point of integration is going to be between the web app and the Despia, SDK, right? Which is probably
Yes.
the object they have globally. But the other one, and one that I think would probably benefit a lot of folks, is that, people try to deploy on the web. It's relatively straightforward. You just have a domain, you can go up. But going to an app store is a bit harder. And maybe you
Yes.
could talk through it. This might even not feel all that Despia specific, but I think it would make the whole experience a bit less scary of like, sort of giving a little bit of a tour of what do people need to do in order to be able to set up to be able to use Despia in the
Yes.
first place, like getting an Apple developer account, that kind of thing. And then what does the workflow look like? Hey, I've got something in Despia and now I'd like to see it on the other side. Like you showed pushing the button
Yeah.
in Despia. Can you show what the other side looks like too?
Sure, sure. So keep in mind we push the button and that's everything we need to do, right? So if I now go to Apple developer account and I'm going to reload this page here, right? I already have
Keep in
created an
mind,
app.
uh, Yassine, most people haven't seen this screen before. So maybe you could give them
Okay.
a little for
Okay.
that.
So if you want to get your app to the Apple App Store or to the Google Play Store, you'll probably log into their developer accounts and create a new app. You would then create a bundle identifier that's kind of like your domain for the app, the unique way how you identify that app. Now, once you have created that, you would link it with your app name, and then you would say for iOS or for Vision OS, wherever you want to deploy it. Then you'll have this app created inside of here. Now, you will probably have no builds under this empty app. That's just kind of like, think of it like a placeholder. So then when I go to test flight here, I will be getting my app automatically sent from Despia into here in one click. The only thing I need to do is if I go to distribution, app information, I would copy this Apple ID for the app, go to Despia, put that inside of here. Then I would have to connect it with my Apple developer account. We have a nice integration that is fully no code to do that. And then once the account is connected, Despia has access to your Apple developer account, knows what app to send the data to. And then under test flight inside of here, you'll find this build here. Now it says missing compliance. So I would go on manage, say I'm not tracking my users or selling their data. And now this is ready to submit. Now this will automatically send it to test flight. So if I have the test flight app installed, I will be able to test this app now on my device. Now, and that's kind of like how I test it before going to the App Store. Now, if I want to submit this to the App Store, I would simply go, where is it again? Oh, here you go, prepare for submission. And I would then add my build in here. So you see build, I would add my build. That's the thing that Despia sent, based on the version. That's the latest one. I go on done. Now I have my build in here. Fill out, upload the screenshots, add the description, and then I would edit for review, and that's it. That's how simple that is. And then if you have any questions across during the process, just, click on the intercom thing on the chat in the Despia editor, start a new chat, and we're going to help you get, solve any roadblocks. We're here to help you every step across the way.
Cool.
Any questions from you, Ray? I know you've been using things like capacitor and you've been seeing all those things. I'm particularly interested in, what your questions are, because you know that technology and you know the limitations of competitors out there.
Yeah. The my general observation is that the tools have their complexity in the before and the after, right? So we just went through a little bit of the after of like what's like to get it over into test flight, what's like
Yeah,
to get it into the app store to get published, which
right.
is great. And the if anyone's wondering like what a screenshot should look like, it almost never looks like a screenshot when you're really doing it. And if you just sort of pop on the App Store for apps that you like, you're going to find that most of them look like promotional images. It just happen to be
Yeah,
shaped in that way. The and that can be that can be pretty cool. But then there's the before part, right? Like and like so you showed a little bit like in Toddle, right? And I'm
yes,
not sure what your users are like in here, but you certainly have lots of experience people building stuff in Webflow or building stuff using
right,
something else.
right.
What does the experience look like of connecting Despia? Like you say, okay, I want to work with Despia, but of course the whole point is not be in the Despia tool, right? It's to be
Right.
doing their development where they do development, and then
Exactly.
through Despia is being submitted.
Right.
So there are two parts here, if I might. The one is what does that experience part look like? And second is what are the preconditions? You sort of talk about your Apple developer account. I just want to take a quick poll here. How many people in this room have an Apple developer account? I know I do.
A bunch of
Most
people.
Oh wow, actually really extraordinary. That's fantastic. I'm so glad to see that. I think you might be a little bit more wired than average, but maybe that means it's not as big a thing as I thought it was. But okay,
It's
so
easy to get one now. If you make a personal one, there you have instant approval.
yeah,
It's just the business one that needs the DUNS number, and that takes like 7 days to apply for.
yeah, okay, cool. All right, so if that part is relatively sorted, then I guess this question like how do you integrate it on the inside the web app itself?
Right, that is pretty simple because you don't need to add anything inside of the inside of the web app, right? Because Despia is only rendered in the Despia mobile app file itself, which consists out of over 2,000 native files, right? So we automatically load that and add that SDKs locally on the device. So there's no script tag, no JavaScript library, no latency that's added to it. So because we automatically package that into a real mobile app out of over 2,000 files, we import all the native SDKs from Apple and Android into the package. You don't need to do anything besides just going to the Despia editor, putting in the URL you want to get your HTML, your UI from, and this URL, if that runs any JavaScript that is manipulating the Despia object like window.despia, the mobile app is automatically observing that href, any, that object inside of there, absorbing any changes, and then based on that, it will trigger the native SDKs in the native mobile part that are the over 2,000 files.
Got it.
So
And
that's all
are
you
there
have to do. So you
okay?
just do the UI in your favorite tool, and you add the SDKs using JavaScript. In Wisp, you would, put a little bit of snippets in JavaScript, something like, let's close this here, something like this, for example, or let's take something simpler like WhatsApp, right? Where you would do WhatsApp colon slash slash send question mark phone, and then you put your phone number here, and then the text to send a WhatsApp message, right? This is what you would do. And this, is JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript, should work with every tool. And we've seen that in WeWeb, we have a bunch of WeWeb users. We have a bunch of Toddle users. The nice thing with Toddle is we were able to do the work for them already by creating the package, right? Because of Toddle's open source modular approach. But for everybody else, this is just a few lines of code that you can just run in a custom workflow in WeWeb, make that thing reusable yourself. WeWeb sadly doesn't allow us yet to share pre-made workflows with them, but once they have that functionality, we'll also have a WeWeb package available.
Cool.
Any other questions from anybody?
Let's open up to the floor. I saw that that Leonard and Johnny had just recently gotten their Apple developer thingies. If do you have questions either about like maybe the feature set, but also I think this is a wonderful opportunity to be asking like anything that might be sticking you in terms of getting started on your mobile development journey too.
Right. I mean, for example, Johnny, he already finished his app in a few days. So you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, so I use Despia to build a photo. I don't know if you know the websites that everybody's talking, like photoai.com. It's a clone of this website, but as a mobile app and for the French market. Because yeah, in the Swiss French market, because here there's no much body that knows like those AI tools. And yeah, I wanted to try to build something like that with Despia. And I'm not a mobile developer, I'm a web developer, so a front-end web developer. And yeah, it was really like seamless. I just needed to add like the some JavaScript and just export the code. Yasin helped me to build it and test it on my iPhone. And yeah, I can show you if you want.
We'd love to see that.
Please.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So So yeah, it's like that. So people can train an avatar with their image. So here they add some photo, a name first, the gender, a minimum of 10 photos. I still need to add some feature, some native feature. So like here, I will need to add the file downloader, Yasin, if I'm correct.
Yeah, so like you get it directly from, you open the gallery immediately. We have like an SDK for that.
Okay, yeah. Here I can add like just to show you. And then it takes like 20 minutes for the avatar to get created. So it uses Flux One Dev model on a replicate. And when your avatar is created, you can then create a photo shoot from with your face. So you can see the prompt here.
It's so cool seeing people use your product.
It is.
And bang. So you can
Share. That's very
share the
cool.
photo, redo it. I also have a function to download all the photo in one bulk, but I have many photos, so if I click, it will take sometimes. Here you can see your gallery. And yes, that's basically it. And it was really easy to, it was like building a PWA and just converting that with Despia in a mobile app. So yeah, for me as a web developer, it saved me a lot of time, really.
Typical.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
And Damien has been also building amazing stuff with his cooking app. I didn't even know we have camera access the way he's using it. He's been like kind of like tracking the body postures of his users. Um, you want to share that, Damien?
I'm not exactly tracking body postures, but
You technically do.
yeah, excuse the frog in my voice. I'm getting over a cold and all the other stuff. But yeah, I actually don't know how to share my mobile screen like that through Zoom. So can somebody walk me through it?
I can help you with that. Yeah. So if you go on Zoom, if you go on share, right?
All right,
If you click on share and you go on advanced, you're going to see iPhone AirPlay.
got it.
And then you just go on your iPhone and you click like Damien Zoom.
I
Here you
feel
go.
like
All
you
right.
actually showed me this before, and I'm just
Yes.
being, you know, a early or a late riser here. So let me actually just get out of there real quick. This is my app here, Hella Good, that I built with Despia. I don't know why I said Tesla. All right, but anywho, let's walk through it. So it's got basic features that your traditional recipe app would have. I haven't built out the home yet, so don't worry about that. But this is kind of where the main features are. I built out a quick little search. So if I wanted to search for like, I don't know, chicken, we can click on the chicken noodle soup recipe or whatever and take a look at that. Scrolls pretty native here. Feels really good going up and down the screen. And yeah, this is one of the recipes that I have full, like top to bottom. I actually have a recipe in here. And what he's talking about, I can probably just go through this page real quick. This is all through Toddle. I built this with Toddle. And I can, adjust the serving sizes and it automatically computes the adjustment for each of the ingredients. I go through prep times, so kind of lists out the prep times there. Nothing in cookware yet. And, like simple little things like that are easy to build in Toddle. Love those things. Let's go and start cooking so I can show you this part. I think this is what he's talking about with the
Oh, yeah.
tracking.
Prepare the roux. In a large pan,
So this is
heat
more
1
like an
cup of
accessibility
vegetable oil
feature.
over
It's
medium
actually
heat.
reading each of the
Gradually
steps
whisk
one
in
by
1
one.
cup of all-purpose flour and stir continuously for 35 minutes to 1 hour until it reaches a milk chocolate color.
I built in a timer. So this is basically something.
Let the roux
Sorry,
cool.
I put a thumb up.
Heat a large Dutch
Let me
oven over
explain what's happening
medium-high
right
heat.
now.
You want to
Brown
stop like the
got
audio
this
so we can
step.
hear you?
Yeah. Once I have the step, I can basically give it a thumbs up, hands-free. It'll just go
In
through
the
the
same
next step.
pot, add
If
1
I didn't
tablespoon of
get the
oil
previous
and
step or
cook
the
1
current
half
step, I
pounds
can
of
just
chicken
go
thighs.
thumbs down and it'll go back to
Heat a
the previous
large
step.
Dutch oven over medium-high heat. Brown
All right.
12 ounces
I
of
can just
andouille
keep
sauce.
thumbing through if I wanted
In the
to, and
same
just,
pot, add
beast through it if I wanted
celery,
to. But
onion.
yeah.
Add 6 cups of chicken broth and
Conversely,
bring
if
to a
I'm
boil.
done with
Reduce
this
heat and
style
simmer
of going
uncovered for
through it, I
1
might
hour,
go like
skimming
list by
any excess
list.
oils.
I can change it, and it's actually jumping through each item in the list. See,
Add celery, onion,
if I
and bell
want to go
pepper to the
back, it'll
pot.
just keep jumping up.
In the same pot,
It'll keep jumping
heat a
down if
large
I want
Dutch
to go down.
oven. In the same pot, add 1 tablespoon of oil
All
and
right.
cook 1/2 pounds of chicken thighs.
Leaving cooking mode stops everything, but I don't know if there's anything else that I've built. That is like worth kind of taking a look at. But got a simple little, rating system with I like it, I don't like it, it didn't work for me or whatever. And yeah, I'm gonna continue building it out and should be ready within a few weeks if I can get done with some other stuff.
Beautiful. I do like the thing where you do thumbs up. So you go to the next thing and thumbs down to go back. I think that's very cool.
I need to build in some do you want this, right? Do you want the
Yeah, we're
thumbs
tracking your camera. Are you sure?
Because that's automatic right now. Like I can see people like, yeah, turn that off. I don't want to use that. But yeah, okay. Yeah, man. It's been fun building through Toddle. I think Toddle is like probably one of the better visual tools that just have made projects simpler for me to build out. And it still does require some I guess thoughtfulness when you're building things because you don't want stuff to be clunky. This is the first project, if I'm being honest, this is the first project that doesn't have a lot of junky JavaScript in it. A lot of custom, just native Toddle things going on there, which actually makes the project work a lot smoother. So, yeah.
And a bunch of native Despia things. With the
Oh,
camera.
yeah. Despia is pretty good. You want me to show Despia, you said?
Yes.
Okay, let me get out of here then. Whoop. All right. Stop sharing.
That would be cool if we can see like how you
I
set
know
that.
both, right? Let's see.
I mean, I'm always up for like Toddle advertisements. I'm as excited about Toddle as you are. That's a great tool. Despia is built in Toddle, right?
Yes. A lot of things are built in Despia and Toddle. That's the new stack.
Toddle, Xano, and Despia, TXD. TXD.
That's the new stack.
There you go.
So I got hella good there. I mean, this was relatively easy to set up alongside Yasin. I got to be honest, like a lot of my first experience with Despia was with Yasin kind of hand-holding me through the process. I can understand people who haven't seen, the Apple developer side of things, like going page by page and maybe looking at this and saying, where the hell am I at? Don't be intimidated by the process. It's really just a lot of copy and paste. And if you have an Apple developer account, which again is really simple to get if you're doing personal, it's not as complicated as you think. So I haven't really done a lot of customizations yet. Like right now, this is Despia's logo. So I haven't dropped anything in that's custom to the app, but this is Despia's logo and, the splash screen as well. A lot of the work is honestly through here on this side and just exporting the iOS project. Am I correct by saying that, Yasin?
Right. Most things that you're going to do is with the SDKs in your favorite tool of choice. Toddle, WeWeb, Wist, Webflow, whatever you want to use. React, Next.js. The main part, what you're going to use is this side. This is just the base configuration. That's probably something you set up one time and set and forget. But this is where the magic is happening, and this magic is being put into the tool that you already love. Like you love Toddle. why shouldn't you build mobile apps in Toddle if you already love it and you already have your website built in Toddle, right? I think it's a silly idea then to go complete to a different framework, relearn how it works, face certain limitations over there. If you love a tool because of the flexibility it gives you, you should be also able to make your mobile app in that tool and maintain one code base to make it way simpler for yourself.
Absolutely. And he made a point about building in Toddle. It actually makes it a ton of a lot easier to just add in little things like the haptic feedbacks and all the stuff that you kind of ignore or just gloss over when you're using your apps on your phone. Like, it's kind of amazing to see that these things can get built into your project as well. Just really, I mean, I'm not really in Despia that much, but just knowing that the tool is allowing that to happen is just like, there's no way I'm building apps without Despia. No way. So
Thank you so much.
awesome work, man. Good job.
I appreciate it. Ray, do you have any questions?
Yeah, that's impressive stuff. You're really moving it along. Can I ask, like, how much work you think you were spending doing the Despia integration and the shipping over to Apple versus the work you're doing for just the core of the web app?
Would that be me or that's it?
Actually, I'm curious both your and Johnny's experience, but Damien, if you could start with you, that'd be awesome.
Okay. Well, what's funny is I don't log that information. I probably should. That's probably like a developer, or even for me, it's just like I'm not really thinking time management when I'm going through these pet projects. I think more along the stuff that I'm doing for other people, but it really hasn't taken me that long to build what you saw. I think it was more the exploratory side, like, with the gestures and all that. Like, that's not something I imagined initially building into the app. I just kind of fell on it, if you will. And, that took a while to put together and tool together. I think it's, that's probably my best answer to direct towards that. I don't know if Johnny has a better answer.
No, it was pretty much the same. As I was building a PWA, first I have everything set up in Toddle. So yeah, it was really not much work comparing to like building all the stuff in Swift. It will be like yeah, it's really a game changer.
I
And
would say that, just briefly, I would say that it's helpful, I guess, for us having like the experience we've already been having with Toddle. A lot of us have built out, have done pre-designed components, right?
Yeah.
So if you're smart, you'll build out the components ahead of time, and you'll be already kind of thinking mobile friendly, device and all that. And so, the beautiful thing about Toddle is it's copy and paste. So you can copy, some of your best work from other projects, reconfigure them, retool them in your apps, or even come up with a component library specific to your apps, which makes it even more seamless. And that's what I've been working on, is just knowing that this is going to be likely the direction I want to take for future projects. I just store all the things that are working in a project in Toddle, and I know that's my copy and paste. Like, hey, I'm gonna throw it in there, and I might give it a little bit of customization, but just think of that streamlined process when you really have an idea how fast you can get it out. And we're talking like just from the idea of an app to total functionality, and especially if you have experience with Zeno and you know how to beast through that. These projects don't take months anymore. They can take weeks, maybe even days if you're that good, if you're Yasin skill.
Yeah. And with Theorem, yeah, it's even faster. Yeah, with the AI UI builder that Yasin built. So I built like 2 or 3 page of my app only with Theorem, and it was like pretty fast.
Real quick too, Johnny, man, I'm still subscribed to Photo AI. You just reminded me about that. I need to kill that subscription. Download your app, brother.
Thanks.
You got his first customer.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm gonna cancel that today, man. You got one.
But
Thank you very much.
You've been also trying to build your application in, like, what was it, React Native or Swift, like using real mobile development, right?
Me?
Yes, Johnny, you've been attempting.
No, I was into in the point to learn Swift because I wanted to build some iOS apps, and yeah, I was in the point to learn Swift, but I discovered Despia, so yeah, now I don't need to learn Swift anymore. My app is on the App Store. I can do all the native stuff that I will have to do with Swift. So yeah, it's really a game changer for me.
And you can still have it in Xcode if you want. If you want to look
Yeah,
professional, you can just keep your screen open, look at all the code. It writes it
pretty,
all for you.
yeah, pretty cool.
And
Yeah.
I also know, Leonard, you've been doing like a chat or something.
Yeah. I got my Apple developer account yesterday, and it was confusing to be honest, but it took me like 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes to get the whole Apple setup thing going. And like 95% of the time it's just the total thing, right? And I haven't added much, like only added haptic feedback because that's what I wanted. But what I really like, and I don't know if this is common or how it usually works in like traditional app development. Um, for example, I have my like the input bar of the
Learn.
chat. Let me un unblur my screen here. Like the input bar at the bottom. When I had it as a web app, it was like all the way at the bottom because you have the Safari, like the address bar, right? Like you
Yeah.
have this little spacing right here. And then when I had it in as an app, that obviously wasn't the case. So it was like cut off. I could just publish a new branch in like 1 minute, add some padding to it, and then it was already on my phone and I could
You
test
can
it.
also make the padding conditional, because you can see if it's rendered in Despia or not using the SDK. So you can
Right.
see based on the user agent, if it includes Despia, you add 2 rem padding to the bottom. That's it.
Yeah,
And then
right.
you
Yeah, I
have your
didn't even think of that.
UI in the app different than on the web app. So it's always perfect no matter where you watch your web application/mobile application.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. But it was just I didn't even think about the fact that there was no bottom padding, right? I needed to add that.
Right.
And the only way I could have known is just by testing it, and I could just fix it in like 1 minute. And
Right.
I'm not sure how that usually works. If like to export your entire thing again and upload it to test flight again. I don't know how that works. But I just published my branch on Total and I reopened the app, right? So that's pretty cool.
Very cool. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of ask one. Thanks, Yassine. Very cool. Really cool. I look forward to to giving it a go. But I think it's something that you say just to clarify, and I think all of you have mentioned it. So it is not that you're turning your web app into a mobile app. You are kind of, but you're actually building your mobile app using web app technology.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're doing that in your favorite web app builder. And the output will be a Swift file or a Java file that will be
Yeah.
2000 plus files. So it will meet minimum functionality requirements by a ton. And you have all the native SDKs inside of there as well to use them. But the build process actually happens in the tool that you already love so
Yeah.
that you can maintain one code base for everything.
Got you. So yeah, so it's the tool that you love, but then you're specifically building for mobile now. You're building
Yes.
for mobile. It's
Yes.
just in the tool that you that you
Right.
love, that you're used to, which is very, I think it's an important distinction. I
Yes.
think some things are sold as you're building once and you use it everywhere, which can be tricky because I think what you're saying here is during the build you're thinking mobile, and this is for mobile. It's just you're using everything that you're familiar with. And then, okay, so and
It
maybe
makes hybrids app easier, right? If you already have your web
yes,
application, then you
exactly.
can just, make it responsive, update the UI, add the conditional logic with the native SDKs if it's rendered in
Yeah,
Despia or not. And then that gives you your mobile application also quickly.
for
Or
sure.
the benefit is if you build mobile application, you're a web developer like Johnny, and you want to build mobile
Yeah.
first, also a way how of using it because it lets you leverage what you
Mm,
already know. But there's also the
got you.
second benefit if you already have your web application built out first. Most SaaSes that are being built are always web first. This is now the
For sure.
cheapest way how you can also launch your web with your mobile separately without adding a lot of time into going into a different framework or tool.
Got you. Got you. Understood. Okay, no, that helps.
Perfect.
Sure.
Hey, do you have
So
a
sorry. And I think I've answered my question in my head, but just to clarify, so
Okay, sure, sure.
someone has built up their web app. If I were trying to go mobile, you go through probably rebuild or refactor, whatever you're doing, and then when you get your PWA, that's when Despia comes in to make it native,
Right.
right?
So once you have your web application and you want to turn it into a mobile
Yeah.
application, that's where Despia comes, and that's where you can then add that SDK set, that native functionality, and then you can test it on testbed as you build it. Or you could also build it a mobile first application like Johnny did, inside of the tool that you already know and you're already familiar with without cutting back on, major functionalities.
Okay. Okay, cool. Got it. Thanks.
You're welcome. Ray, I'm really particularly interested in your opinion after looking at that because you've been doing those things since 25 years and or 20. I don't want to say any wrong things here, but you've been using capacitor, you've been using all the competitors. Is there anything you think that is better with the competitor or that stands out with them or that stands out with Despia? I'm curious to learn more about your opinion because you've been in no code for forever and programming. So
Yeah, well, sure. It's early days, right? So, like I think these things often live and die on the documentation. They live and die on frankly, on the help that's outside of the documentation. Because the hardest part about making this whole thing go is, I mean, you solve some of the hard parts through your through the hooks that you put in. And don't get me wrong, we don't need to understate those things. But then there's a question like, how do you deal with push notifications? That's a whole different set of tech. How do you deal with getting the App Store approvals? Getting a personal one's relatively straightforward, like you say. Getting the business one takes more work. It's like some of these things aren't technical, but they're actually where the friction becomes. Like 'cause as you sort of take away these friction parts. So the reason I bring all this stuff up is that I think there's a big focus when you start looking at some of these other projects to treat them as technical problems, when in fact a lot of them are, hey, what is the procedural problem? Right, that's getting
right,
you from here to there. And I think that's going to be a place where if you can fill in more of those holes, you'll get some immediate advantages. Otherwise, you're just sort of going toe to toe with like, hey, we make this feature happen if you can also get through all the other hurdles, right? I remember when I was talking with DraftBit like a couple years ago. DraftBit is the system that allows you to make native apps using React Native. And I remember talking with their CEO, Raf, and he was telling me like I asked what I thought was like a super elementary question, which is how many apps have been shipped on your tool today? And boy, the answer was more than fingers, but less than fingers and toes. It just was that much. And that's why the proof really is in the pudding here. Like we can look at lots of different features, but the way this thing really is going to make a difference in the world is going to be how much actually gets shipped out, right? There's some stuff that gets shipped test flight, great, that's like some prototyping. But like if it can be shipped into the world and actually be helping consumers, business users, whatever it is, but help connect the business experts who are building with it with the users on the other end, then it will be doing its job. And certainly what we're seeing right now is some great promise in terms of
right,
its ability to do that, and I'm excited about that. I think that the part that's going to make it successful is going to be being able to get that metric up. And I think what you're showing is like, hey, you this part can be easy. Now,
right.
like, what's the next part that's hard? And I actually think you might find that those are problems that are unusually easy for you to be addressing because they're not as deeply technical, but they are nevertheless still blocks for folks.
Exactly.
And the more you can get rid of that, and the more we keep our an eye on how can we help more people ship more useful software, we'll create more value in the world, which creates more business for you and creates more value for them. That's just the way we make progress here. So that's sort of the way you were asking me like what I think about it overall, rather than giving a judgment answer. I think
Right,
what you've shown is making me think about what's next, right?
right.
And I hope you take that as a compliment, which it's intended, right? It's
Of
not like,
course.
hey, there are things to catch up to. It's like now we're excited. Let's get some apps in the world.
Right. And you know, the nice thing about that is you mentioned push notifications, right? We have a native integration with one signal. So it's just, you know, you go on one signal, you link that with your developer account, you get that app ID, you put it into Despia, we automatically add the dependencies, we automatically add the pod files, we automatically set everything up that you need to do, and you get push notifications working in 5 minutes. So we make that super simple, super easy. Now, then the next thing is with the publishing, right? Where we, you know, sometimes your account, you got to get your DUNS number and all of that, right? That's why I mentioned we have that intercom, we have that support 24 hours a day there to help you. I'm personally sitting behind that, maybe not 24 hours a day, but as much as I can. And whenever there is an incoming request coming, I'm going to respond to it as soon as possible because I want to make sure that everybody using Despia is getting their app successfully out there. And whatever your problem is, if you have a question about that, if Apple gave you a rejection, my personal promise to everybody using Despia is put a message in that support chat. I'm going to look at that and we're going to find a solution together because most of the things, for example, when you get a rejection with a Despia app, which usually doesn't happen unless you are using something like you have an aggressive way of tracking users' location, right? So we had that with one user, they had a rejection by Apple because they were tracking their location in the background. Apple doesn't really like those things. Now, Apple puts those things mainly in rejection, not because they don't want you to build an app that tracks the location, but because they want to have human supervision to just go back to the developer and ask, why are you doing that? What's the utility of that, right? So we told them what's going on and they were able to resolve that problem because we told them, you know, you want to show them this, you want to do this, you want to say this. Of course, I didn't say anything that is not true. They said everything how it's supposed to be, but we hold their hand during the process to make sure that they get that approval from Apple because most of the things, if your app gets rejected, if anything gets rejected, your in-app purchase, it's usually due to a lack of detail you're giving to the Apple review team, not because of minimum functionality violations when you use Despia. Other than with the competitors of Despia, they cause minimum functionality violations. Despia doesn't. So, you know, it's about they want you to adjust something or address more information, and we're here for every user to help them. Like with Johnny, like with Damien, like with Nenert, we're here to help everybody make sure that their development process with Despia is as smooth as possible when it is testing, when it is publishing, when it is getting it out there or keeping it out there or making updates, right? And that's my personal promise to everybody using it, that I'm going to help you make sure that it gets out there successfully. Because I've been dealing with Apple review team for quite a while and I know how to fight with them. So
Sure. We're in our last few minutes, and I thought we might want to extend the floor to Cleveland and Daniel, you know, for comments or questions they might have that we can help them make progress with their building their mobile app ambitions.
So yeah, I'll go up. Been watching your stuff, Ray. Reference from Yassine, so love what you guys are doing. So yeah, you know, maybe somewhere about maybe 4 years ago, I was building a React Native application. It was in the finance space, and it was just the worst headache, you know, humanly possible. Being non-technical at the time, did take some coding classes since then. And you know, now just navigating through Toddle and the TX stack, and now when I do go mobile, TDX stack. I'm really seeing the speed from Toddle alone is just incredible. And then, you know, what Yassine has built, I don't really have any questions as it pertains to Despia because he's laid that out to me a lot. If I did have a question, it'd be how on earth is the web app HTML being converted down into the mobile app? But I think that might be an IP question more than
it's not
something
really
you
an
can.
IP question. You know, at the end of the day, Despia is using a WK web view. Now, if you Google that, you're going to find a lot of horror stories on the Apple developer forums about WK web views. My app got rejected. What's going on? Because, you know, most people use a web view as a way of distributing their application into the App Store. They see it as a way to ship it on there. a web view is a functional component of an application. It's been misused by a lot of people, right? People take their website, put it in a web view. Your app has 3 files: web view delegate, some Swift control, web view controller, Swift delegate, and then your icons. And you actually end up having more files that are icons than actual iOS files. That's been the most common way how people distributed web apps into mobile apps. Now, Despia took that idea, but we extended it by like 2,300 files. And we added all the native stuff that makes a mobile app a mobile app. Of course, your app is still HTML, and Despia has a web view, not actually just a regular WK web view. It does a lot of magic on the back end. It changes a lot of things, how you render things, so that you don't have issues like you can select text in your app and then you can zoom in and all that stuff. So we manipulate the web view to make it as native as possible so that the elements itself are optimized to feel like real native elements. That's the difference between Despia and something like React Native, where React Native actually renders native mobile components. Despia renders HTML. Quite funny, because that was the original idea how Steve Jobs wanted mobile apps to be built, on HTML and CSS. But we took kind of like that idea, extended on that, so you can keep your code base as the web app, but we're going to add magic, meaning a lot of code on top of what we're already doing in the WK web view to improve the performance and to make sure that you don't have that issues like other web view apps have. And then on top of that web view, you have another 2,300 files. They're going to add all the native functionality. They're going to add haptic feedback. They're going to give your web application access to all the variables that your native mobile device has, like, the location data or the device ID, because every device has a unique ID. You can access all those things in Despia. That is functionality a native mobile app has. So on a functionality level, it is a native mobile application. If you want to make the argument that Despia is not a real native mobile application, the only thing you could look at is that it renders HTML in a mobile application, but your user won't feel that it's rendered as HTML because we do a lot of magic in how we render things. But we utilize, at the end of the day, if you look at the file you're exporting, you see there is a web view file, but you also see, if you export the code, that there is a lot of things that are being done with that web view 2,300 files worth of things.
Okay, that almost makes a good bit of sense there. But I think one thing that I guess became a little bit more clear is the fact that that Despia package on Toddle is essential to making it so that Despia understands what was built on Toddle. So that makes me feel much. It brings a lot more clarity to understanding. Okay, that Despia package on Toddle grants access to visibility within the Toddle application. Exactly. That creates a lot of dysfunctionality and empowers it. So that's awesome. I understand that part.
Right.
And once Toddle open sources, that stabilizes that connection even more, so to speak.
Yes, you can add more stuff on top of it that maybe Toddle is not evolving yet on there, right? So you have more possibilities in what you can do. But ultimately, the cool thing about Despia is the fact that it renders your HTML and it adds magic to it. For example, if you add a file upload automatically, it makes sure that when you click on that file upload, it opens, the native camera if you have certain attributes on that file upload. That's how it identifies it. So it does add a lot of magic in how it renders things. Technically speaking, it's a wrapper, but I'm always making the argument that it's not a wrapper because wrappers have 10 files, Despia has 2,300, and it's native access to everything.
Very cool.
It's the coolest wrapper out there.
Thank you so much. Yassine, this was a great hour. I know I learned a lot. I'm very grateful for it. And thank you all for joining today. This was a great session. I think we all came away a lot smarter.
Thank you so much for having me. I would love to give you a free access to Despia because I would love to get all your constructive criticism to make sure it gets even better.
Awesome. All right. We will be talking again soon. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Have a good one. Take care. Bye.
Yes, bye-bye.